Hello and welcome to BYJU'S Exam Prep IAS. A very warm good morning to everyone. I hope all of you are doing good. It is 10 a.m. meaning that it is time once again for us to bring out the day's Hindu newspaper and analyze the most important news stories from the Hindu newspaper for both the mains and the prelims examination point of view. I hope all of you are doing good. I hope your preparation is going right on track. I hope you're also practicing a lot of these questions before the prelims examinations so that you can get into a habit of what kind of questions are asked. Let's see what are the important topics that we have here for you today. These are the topics that we have chosen from the Hindu newspaper. Just a couple of topics from the mains examination point of view, while a lot of topics from the prelims exams. We'll first be discussing about the Vaikom satyagraha, whose centenary year has just started, meaning that now it is the beginning of the 100th year anniversary of the Vaikom Satyagraha. So there's an article written on that. We'll be discussing about what was the Vaikom Satyagraha, the role played by Periyar and other leaders. Then we'll be discussing about an order issued recently by the Bureau of Indian Standards. The order is about quality control on certain fibres. What is the implication on that? Then from the prelims point of view, we have a lot of news stories. First, the government has decided that the medicine for rare diseases will not have any custom duty. Second, back to school, meaning that a lot of adults, over 22 lakh adults who left out school earlier, are now again back in the school and now in the category of literate. Over 22 lakh adults have gained literacy and numeracy skills this year. We'll be discussing what is this government program all about. Then ISRO has released images of Earth captured by the EOS-06 satellite. EOS means Earth Observation Satellite. Then number 6, we have the piezoelectric effect that has been discovered now in liquids. Piezoelectric effect is something that we only used to see in solids, but now it has been seen in liquids as well. And in the end, we'll be discussing about how is it that the government of India is trying to trace back the ancestry records of a lot of Indians in India. These are the important news stories that we have here for you. So let's begin without waiting any further with the first article that we have. The first article that we have here is written on the beginning of the centenary year, meaning beginning of the 100th year of the Vaikom Satyagraha. Now Vaikom Satyagraha, I'm very sure all of you would have read this in modern history. Those who don't know this, let me very quickly tell you what exactly is this Satyagraha all about. So, Vaikom is a very small town in Kerala. Now, pre-independence era, go to 1920s, 1930s, before that, there was a period that people belonging to certain caste were not allowed into temples. And that was a phenomena that was seen all around India. That most of the temples were kind of under the control of what you call as the upper caste, and what you call as a lower caste were not allowed to enter into temples. Not just this, in many places it was so strict that not just the temples, even the areas around the temple, the street around the temple, even on those streets, people belonging to certain castes were not even allowed to enter. That was an area, or that was an issue that was seen all around India. Now, the Vaikom Satyagraha mainly was against this idea. The Vaikom Satyagraha's idea was that temples should be open to people belonging to all castes. Not just temples, the streets around the temples should be open for everyone. Now, why is it so important that streets around the temples should be open for everyone? Now, I'm sure again you have read this in history. I'll repeat this once again. When you talk about the temples in ancient India, temples were not just places of worship. Temples were always the center of all the commercial activities. For example, right now, if you are in the evening time, you just want to go somewhere, you don't want to spend money, you just want to just go and take around, just see other people, where do you go? You go to shopping malls, you go to marketplaces, right? Now, those days, there were no shopping mall, no marketplaces. Most of the people knew that temple is the hub of the entire city. A lot of people used to go near the temple even when they did not want to go to the temple exactly. So, all the commercial activities were actually around the temple. Temple was a commercial hub always. And this is where temples and the streets around the temples were so important. Now, this is where the Vaikom Satyagraha actually started. This Vaikom Satyagraha started in 1924 Again, it was a non-violent movement. The idea was simple, that people belonging to lower caste should also be allowed to come in the temple. The temple that was mainly at the center of this satyagraha was the Vaikom Mahadev temple. Now, when this protest started, when this movement started, a lot of the leaders who tried to enter the temple were arrested by the police. When a lot of these people were arrested, finally, the one big leader who entered the movement, that big leader was E.V. Ramaswamy, also known as Periyar. Now, I'm sure all of you would have heard about Periyar or E.V. Ramaswamy, one of the tallest leaders of South India. He has been known for a lot of things. He has been known as the person who started the Dravidian movement in South India. He has been known as a person who fought for the interest and for the rights of the people belonging to the depressed classes in South India. Now, Periyar E.V. Ramaswamy at that point of time was in the Congress. He left Congress later on, but when this movement started, he was in the Congress. When most of the leaders were arrested, E.V. Ramaswamy Periyar joined this movement, and that got the movement even bigger. Now, once this movement started, Kerala Congress, as I told you, was the party behind this entire movement. Police arrested a lot of leaders. When this movement started becoming big, it also led to Mahatma Gandhi, in fact, coming to Kerala. He also tried to negotiate with the two sides. The problem was that Orthodox Hindus who believed that temples should be reserved for only certain caste of people, they were against this movement, while many others were supporting this movement as well. While being a part of this movement, this is where Periyar was given this title called the Vaikom Virar. Virar means hero. So Vaikom Virar is a title given to Periyar. The name of the title is Hero of Vaikom. This was a title given to him by the editor of a Tamil journal, Navashakti. This editor had given this title because of the entry of Periyar into this movement, and that is why he was called the Vaikom Virar. This question also has been asked in the prelims a long time back, that who amongst the following was given this title of Vaikom Virar. Now, as I said, Mahatma Gandhi also came down to Kerala, tried to negotiate between the two sides, between the Orthodox Hindus that were more powerful, that were richer, that controlled most of the things, and the people who wanted entry into the temples. Now, although this was mainly focused on Kerala, as we discussed, Vaikom is a place in Kerala, but Tamil Nadu also played a very, very important role here. The Tamil Nadu presidency of that time, Madras presidency, it also gave a lot of support to this movement. Now, this movement went on for close to 2 years. This movement went on for about 600 days. After this movement went on for 600 days, finally there was a compromise formula. There was a resolution passed in the assembly at that point of time. It was mediated by Mahatma Gandhi, the Queen of Travancore at that time, social reformer Narayan Guru, and also the police commissioner of that time. When the movement was withdrawn, the decision was that finally people belonging to all castes would withdraw their protest, and the protest was about mainly 4 streets around the temple. Out of those 4 streets, at least 3 would be open to everyone. That was a compromise formula, that out of the 4 streets that everyone would be actually or was protesting against, it was said that 3 of these will be open to everyone now. Now, this is how the idea of the Vaikom movement ended. Now, for most of the people, Vaikom movement was seen as a successful demonstration. It was a movement that gave most of the limelight to Periyar, and after that he became a bigger and bigger leader with every passing year. Vaikom movement, as we discussed, was in 1924. So now begins the 100th year. So 100th year is beginning now for the Vaikom movement, and that is why it is extremely, extremely important. Now, as I said, the role of Periyar in South India goes much, much beyond the Vaikom movement. Vaikom movement may be the first big movement where he was involved, but he was also involved in many other movements. For example, he was involved in the self-respect movement as well. Now, what was the self-respect movement? Again, the idea was that people belonging to depressed classes, or people belonging to those castes, or people who were discriminated against, they should also understand that they are equal to others as well. There is nothing that is lesser in them. They should not feel that they are the ones who do not deserve to be at an equal pedestal as compared to others. The self-respect movement was a movement mainly to ensure that people belonging to all the castes are eligible for all the jobs, are eligible for all the opportunities. The self-respect movement, as I said, was started by Periyar. He was known as a very well-known social reformer. He believed in a society that is rational, without any caste, religion, a society that is egalitarian. He is also considered as a father of the Dravidian movement. That is why he has a big place in South India even today. Now, his role and his teachings are remembered even today, and we are discussing this. The reason being that because of this 100th year anniversary, the centenary year, this topic has become important. Now, also, Periyar's role in that particular area was also to ensure that doesn't matter whichever movement you're talking about, it should not contain any violence. He was not someone who asked his supporters to indulge in violence. He was also someone who followed the teachings of Mahatma Gandhi, for example, mobilizing the support, asking a lot of people to show up whenever there was any campaign against the establishment. He, as I said, he also had a relationship with Mahatma Gandhi that changed with time. Earlier, as we discussed, he was a member of the Congress only. He was, in fact, the leader of the Kerala Congress at that time, but later on he left the Congress. By the way, can you tell me when he left the Congress, which particular party did he join or which particular party did he establish? Any idea? When he left the Congress, which was the party that he actually joined? What do you think? Okay, I'm getting DMK, Justice Party, SNDP, DMK. Okay, let me give this as a homework to you. Do tell me in the chats after the video gets over, what party did he actually establish or what party did he join later on after he left the Congress party? Do tell me that in the comment section. Now, apart from that, he was also very well known as someone who established rationalism. Now, what is rationalism? Rationality is something that is discussed even today. Now, even today in large parts of India, a lot of people believe in things such as black magic. A lot of people in India still believe in things which are not really as per science, which go against the rationality thinking. Now, he was the person who stressed on the idea of rationalism, meaning that he convinced people not to believe in superstition. He convinced people not to believe in black magic. Although we might think that now this is a thing of the past, now people don't believe in superstition or black magic in India, but even today, especially in the rural areas, there are still a lot of places where people undertake a lot of activities. There are so many children who are actually killed, or you should say sacrificed, in the name of superstition or black magic. All these things still exist in the society. He was someone who was against this idea. He was the one who propagated rationalism. He also laid the foundation of the political thought that is continued even today, the thought of egalitarian politics, the thought where everyone should be considered equal, irrespective of the person's caste. He also was concerned about the poor people. That is why it is said that even today, if you look at the politics of Tamil Nadu more specifically, the politics of Tamil Nadu even today is very much based on the ideas of Periyar. Periyar was the one who gave these ideas, egalitarianism, focusing on the needs of the poor. For example, even today, when you talk about Tamil Nadu, doesn't matter which party comes to power, it is mainly the social security schemes of the parties that are considered very good. So, doesn't matter whichever party comes to power in Tamil Nadu, a lot of them have these welfare schemes that they give free or freebies or whatever you call to the people. And the delivery of the freebies is very, very good in Tamil Nadu more specifically. That is an idea that has been based on the ideology of Periyar, and that has continued even today. That is why it is said that in Tamil Nadu, doesn't matter which party comes to power, whatever promises they make, most of those are fulfilled, and most of those do reach till the end stage of the cycle. This was about the first one. Let me quickly take up a few comments before we move on. Kishan, it depends on the topic of the essay. If the essay is relevant to this, you can always mention this. Okay. Okay, there's a question, what is a Dravidian movement? So Dravidian movement is actually, it's a movement that encompasses a lot of things. It talks about a Dravidian identity. That is, that they have a different identity. For example, their language is separate, the way of their life is separate. So they should not fall for, let's say, the idea was if in North, people are being divided on the basis of caste. The Dravidian movement was that we should not do that because we have a different kind of an identity. Our language is separate. They wanted that we should have, or their language, even today, the movement that we see in Tamil Nadu is against imposition of the Hindi language. So Dravidian movement is a very umbrella kind of a movement that talks about a separate culture, that talks about not taking any evil things from the other culture, focusing on your language only. Then I have a question. Okay, perfect. No, Ashutosh, I would not say it was a successionist movement. At least at his point of time, the Dravidian movement was not a successionist movement. Later on, there was a demand. There was a demand that we should have there was a demand from some factions that we should have a separate part of India called Dravid Nadu. So Dravid Nadu was a demand that was made by southern state, but that was not the idea at that point of time when Dravidian movement was formed. That was not the idea. Later on, there were a faction of people who wanted to have a separate country called Dravid Nadu from southern part of India, but that was not a part of that movement. Perfect. Let's go ahead then. The next important article that we have here is that BIS, the Bureau of Indian Standards, has released a quality control order on fibers. Now, what does it mean? Please try and understand this. So, basically, what is BIS? BIS is the Bureau of Indian Standards. For example, when you take a fan, you take a tube light, you say that this is ISI this or ISI this much. So, the standardization of products, this standardization is given or licensed by BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards. The responsibility of the BIS is to make sure that the products that are being sold in India, the products that are being consumed in India, the products that are manufactured are of a certain quality, so that based on that quality, based on that certification, these products can be sold in the market. This is the simple idea of BIS. Now, what has happened in this case is BIS has just given an order that from now onwards, certain fibers, textile, etc., when they are imported or they are manufactured in India, before they are used, they have to first undergo a quality check. This is the idea. Let me again repeat. BIS has said that from now onwards, certain textiles, certain fibers in India, before they are used in any of the industrial activity, they first have to be given certain quality certification. Only when they get quality certification, only when they are getting a certain standard of license, only then they can be used. This was not the case earlier. This is what has happened. So this is called the quality control order. Quality control order has been issued for certain fibers such as cotton, polyester, viscose. These materials now, which are used mainly in the clothing industry, before these materials are used, they first have to undergo a quality check. Only when they are found to be of up to a certain quality, only and only then they should be used. That is the simple idea. Now, what is the problem here? The industry, the textile industry is not happy with this. Why? The idea is that textile industry is saying that a lot of these things we import from outside India. So let's say, and this is a real example given here, let's say some of these fibers we import from Turkey. So let's say there's a company in Turkey that is selling these products to India. Now the problem here is if that Turkish company is not interested in taking the BIS certification, then it is India's market that will be hurt. Because if the Turkish company thinks that they are only selling some products to India, very few products to India, what is the need to go all the way to BIS, take a certificate from them, only then they will be allowed to sell in India. It's rather better for them that they sell their products to somewhere else. In fact, already the textile industry in India is worried that the raw material that they were importing from countries such as Turkey might not come to India now They might sell it in other countries which don't require these quality standards. So they might sell it, for example, in Pakistan, where there are no quality standards as such. This is what the problem is. The industry, that is a textile industry, is not happy with this. They are seeing that it will only create more hurdles in their working. It will create roadblocks. The importers now will not really look to get these kind of certifications from the BIS. Why? Because they think it's better for them to sell it at some other places also. Now, why is it that these fibers are covered under the quality control order? The reason being, the BIS is saying, that is the Bureau of Indian Standards, they are saying that we want high quality products only to be made in India. Now understand something. If India wants to become a country which exports a lot of stuff, we want our stuff to be of good quality so that when an Indian product goes to other countries, they are happy with those kind of Indian products. So for that, to ensure quality, to ensure a minimum standard, the BIS has taken the responsibility that minimum standards should be maintained of all these components. So the idea of BIS behind introducing this quality control order is they want that our domestic market should have high quality products. We should not have sub-quality products. As such, whatever product is imported to India, it should be high quality, because as per BIS, countries such as Turkey, they export high quality products to Europe and they export lower quality products to India, because they think in India no product will be rejected, any product that we send will be accepted, there is no standard or there is no certification that is required. So a lot of times in the international market, Indian market is considered as a market where any product can be sold. This is what the BIS, the Bureau of Indian Standards, does not want to happen. The problem here although is with the Indian importers. As I told you, India imports a lot of these fibers, and the problem that we have is these fibers now will not be imported unless those manufacturers in Turkey or other parts of the world take the BIS certification, which is not happening right now. Because of this, we believe or we fear that the import of these fibers will now go down, and because these import of fibers will go down, the value chain will be disrupted. So the textile industry in India is appealing, is requesting the BIS not to do this. Also, the problem here is when you talk about a government certification. See, government certification again is not very easy. Let's take a simple example. Let's say there is a fiber manufacturer in Turkey, okay? This Turkish company wants to take the BIS certificate. So what is the process? This Turkish company will tell BIS, you can visit our company, you can visit our factory, take a survey, inspect the factory, and then give us a certification. So what happens is, even if the inspectors, even if those who will undertake the inspection, even if they go to Turkey, even if they inspect the entire factory, it is a long process. You cannot expect that after the inspection, the next day or the 2 days after, they will be given the certificate. No, this is usually a long process. Talk about any government process where you have to take license or permission or certificate from the government, it takes a long time. For example, you still have a lot of inspectors that come in for inspection in many food factories especially. When they come for inspection, they prepare a detailed report. Only when the report is then inspected, only then the process actually goes ahead. So even though the BIS certificate is something that the companies may opt for, but even then it is not necessary that the BIS certificate will be given very easily. And this is what the problem is. Now, the other part of the story is BIS certificate is not compulsory for every product. Please understand, it is not necessary that every product sold in India should have a BIS or Bureau of Indian Standards certificate. But there are certain products for which the certificate is made mandatory. And this is what has happened with these fibers also. That is why the textile industry is not happy. Again, the textile industry is unhappy because they think their import of fibers now will be harmed, because the companies sitting in other countries will not want to go through all that trouble to go ahead and actually get this certification. This is what the problem is. Now, what exactly is a BIS? How does it work? Let's also look at that. As I said, BIS is Bureau of Indian Standards. It is India's national standard body. So basically it gives quality certification for goods, etc. Like when you buy gold, you say this is hallmark gold. So hallmark means the BIS gives a certification that yes, this is pure gold. So BIS basically certifies the quality of certain product so that when you go and buy the product in the market, you are sure that yes, I know this is a pure product. This is how the BIS actually works. So they ensure that the products are safe. They ensure that no product is in the Indian market which is harmful for our health. They also promote import and export by studying up the quality of the products. They also ensure there is proper testing, certification done before the products are sold in the market. Now, the BIS, Bureau of Indian Standards, issues certain orders called Quality Control Orders, QCO. As I said, Quality Control Order means when the BIS issues an order which says that for certain products it is necessary to take certification. Those are called quality control orders. Quality control orders are those orders which make it mandatory for certain products to take certificate from the BIS before they are being sold in the market. This body actually ensures that these kind of quality control orders are implemented. Their certification, as I said earlier, and please do remember, it is not necessary that every product sold in India should have the BIS certificate. It is voluntary in nature. Voluntary means, let's take a simple example, okay? Let's assume that I want to sell this pen in the market. I want to sell this pen on Amazon. I want to make this pen, sell this pen in the market, whatever way. Now, I can sell this pen without having a BIS certificate. That is not mandatory. But if I have a BIS certificate, if I go to BIS, ask them to test this pen, test it for quality, give us a certificate. If they give the certificate, then I can sell it at a better price. So that then I will say, see, my pen is BIS certified, it is such a good pen, pay me more money for that, pay me 100 rupees for this pen. Earlier I was selling it at 50 only. So BIS certificate is voluntary in nature. It's not necessary for every product. It is only necessary for certain products. For example, now hallmark gold is mandatory in India. You would have seen the news also that now if you are selling gold, that also now has to be hallmarked. However, on the other hand, not all products have to be mandatorily certified by BIS. Now they have said that for fibers, etc., this has to be mandatory for the product to be imported in India. This is the entire issue about the BIS. This was about the next news article from the Hindu newspaper. These were the two important articles from the mains point of view. Now we'll go ahead from the prelims point of view. Before that, let me take up a few questions. Chico is saying, what is the difference between BIS and ISI? Chico, BIS is the organization. The certificate that they issue, basically those will be ISI something, but again ISI was an earlier authority. So BIS is an authority that has replaced the earlier authorities. The marks, the trademarks, etc. that they give, they are of different names. Then I have a question. Gaurav is asking, can we call it red tapeism? See, again, the issue is when the government takes any decision, government doesn't take the decision from the point of view that this will be or this will lead to red tapeism. Whether a certain decision of the government will lead to red tape or not depends on the executive on the ground. For example, if let's assume that an inspector goes to the factory to inspect a certain factory, but then says, give me money only, then I will pass the file, or I'll pass the file after 2 months, that will automatically become red tape. So purpose of a government policy is never to increase red tape. It is about implementation. Is it implemented right or not? If it is not implemented correctly, then it will always lead to red tape. If it is implemented properly, it will not lead to red tape. So it's not necessary that every government policy will lead to red tape only. Okay, let me take a few more questions quickly. So Myra saying, is something changed the main syllabus? No, nothing changed the main syllabus. Main syllabus has usually been the same for many, many years. Okay. Then I have a question. BIS is important for prelims? Yes, BIS is important for prelims as well. So it can be asked in the prelims also. Then I have a question. Is it related to PM Mitra? No, it is not related to PM Mitra. PM Mitra scheme is just for setting up textile parks. That is not for this. Yes, you can say textile is a common link between the two, but it is not necessarily a link between the two. Sneha is saying, do we need to read newspaper beyond this discussion? No, Sneha, not. I would not recommend this. We are covering both mains and prelims point of view. So I don't think you need to read newspapers beyond this. You can depend on this. That is entirely fine. Perfect. Okay, perfect. Let's move on then. The next one that we have here for you, we will be going ahead and discussing the news stories from the prelims point of view. Now, the mains point of view is done. Let's go ahead and see from the prelims point of view what exactly do we have. One suggestion that I have for all of you, I know in these live sessions, the one problem that we have is there's a lot of distraction on the chat. I would really urge you, let's try and focus on what is on your screen rather than what is on the chat. Please read the chat only when you have to type something rather than actually seeing what everyone else is typing. So let's try and focus there, because again, just like UPSC preparation, you will have a lot of things trying to distract you. It depends upon you whether you are distracted or not. So let's take this as a challenge for you. Let's focus on what is on the screen. Look at the chat only when you have to type something rather than just looking at each other's comments, because that will not really be helpful. Anyway, let's go ahead then. So the next one that we have here for you is from prelims point of view. There's a story on the main page of the Hindu newspaper, that is the government of India deciding that medicines for rare diseases will not attract custom duty. So basically, from this particular topic, what you have to remember is the government of India has a policy called National Policy for Rare Disease 2021, and I'll discuss about that specifically. There is something called the National Policy for Rare Disease 2021. Now, under this particular policy, the National Policy for Rare Diseases, the government of India has tried to ensure that whatever rare diseases occur in the country, people who are suffering from rare diseases, the drugs that they have to take, the medicines that they have to take are of very, very high price. So government of India is trying to reduce those prices somehow. One way in which the government is trying to do this is, if these medicines are imported, then the customs duty will not be imposed on them. For example, and there's an example given in this article as well. For example, if there's a child who weighs 10 kg and the child is suffering from some rare disease, rare diseases are those for which the medicines can go on for the entire lifetime. If there's a child who is just 10 kg, for the child the cost of that disease may go on from 10 lakh to rupees 1 crore per year, and that treatment can be a lifelong treatment. So rare diseases, etc., can cost a huge amount of money. And that is why the government of India is trying to reduce the cost, which is a part of National Policy for Rare Disease 2021. Now, I will tell you what exactly is the policy all about. What are the pointers in the policy? This is what the article says, that the government is trying to ensure that these rare diseases are curtailed, and whatever medicines are required, most of these medicines anyways are imported, the government wants to bring down the cost. Now, how exactly would it happen? Anyone who is importing these medicines, they would have to apply for this kind of a custom duty relief. So, for example, you will have to get a certificate from Central or State Director Health Services or a civil surgeon of the district. You have to get a certificate first that you need this medicine, only then the import duty, the custom duty, for example, will be taken away by the government. An example here can be pembrolizumab. This is a cancer treatment drug. This costs a lot of money. This is a drug which is usually imported in India. It attracts custom duty as well. The government of India is trying to move away from that as well. So cancer and there are other types of rare diseases, a lot of neurological disorders which are considered as rare diseases. Now, what exactly is this policy? Please try and understand this from the prelims point of view. So, in 2021, the government of India came up with the National Policy of Rare Diseases. As the name suggests, the idea is very simple: to bring down the cost of treatment for rare diseases, to make the medicines more available, to ensure that these diseases are identified at the earlier stage. Now, under this policy, remember, there are 3 types of rare diseases: Group 1, Group 2, Group 3. Group 1 rare disease under this policy is disorders amenable to one-time curative treatment, meaning that any disorder that can be removed by one-time treatment, a surgery or any very expensive drug, you have that once and you will become better, you will be cured. That is the group 1. Then group 2. Group 2 are those which require long time or lifelong treatment. So if there is a disease for which you have to have medicine until the end of your life, that is a lifelong treatment. That is group 2. Then there's group 3. Group 3 diseases for which definitive treatment is available, but challenges are that patient selection, etc. How do you select the patients? There's a lifelong therapy that is required, and there's a very, very high cost involved as well. These are the different types of groups that exist under this particular policy of the rare disease. Now, how does the government help these people who are suffering from rare diseases? Number 1, government under group 1 will give financial support of up to rupees 20 lakh. The government will give 20 lakh support under a scheme called Rashtriya Arogya Nidhi. This scheme is especially for those who are below poverty line and are suffering from major threatening diseases. They can get medical treatment at super specialty government hospitals as well. The beneficiaries would not be limited to just the PPL families, the below poverty line, or others as well. About 40% of India's population can get treatment under this. As you know, the government of India has been working in this sector for other medicines also. We have the Jan Aushadhi Kendra, as all of you would know. In the Jan Aushadhi Kendra, you can get generic medicine at a very, very low cost as compared to the usual medicines that you see in the market. So the government of India is trying to decrease the cost of a lot of these medicines and not just about the rare diseases. Now, how do you identify or how do you define what is a rare disease? There is no one single definition of a rare disease. Please understand this. Usually, there are 6,000 to 8,000 diseases which are classified as rare diseases, but less than 5% of them have any therapy. There are a lot of examples of these kind of diseases. Now, about 95% diseases which are rare diseases have no approved treatment as such. Most of these diseases are where symptoms specifically are treated, but most of these do not have any treatment so far. Now, as I told you, there is no one single condition or definition of a rare disease, but usually rare disease is a health condition that has a very low prevalence, means very small number of people are infected by this in the general population. It may be serious, it may be life-threatening, it may be chronic as well. But as I said earlier, there is no one single definition of what will be the rare disease. So when the government, for example, decides this kind of a policy that we would lessen the import duty or we would lessen this kind of a duty on rare disease medicine, the idea that we have here is very simple. The idea is that if you want that exemption, you first have to take permission from the medical officers. So they will decide while you apply for the permission that is it a rare disease or not. So Government of India has not made a list of these diseases so far, but when you apply on a case-to-case basis, it will be decided whether it is a rare disease or is it not a rare disease. This was about the rare diseases and the government's initiatives regarding that. Okay, I'll take one last question, one more before we move on. There's a question, does certificate for individual doesn't make policy ineffective? It should be provided under Jan Aushadhi scheme. No. Jan Aushadhi scheme is very different. Rare diseases are those diseases for which the medicines are usually imported. They cost lakhs and lakhs of rupees, even one single dose. Jan Aushadhi scheme is not for those diseases. Jan Aushadhi scheme is for regular medicine that you eat, for example, paracetamol. If you go to usual pharmacy, you will get paracetamol 10 tablets for 50 rupees. At Jan Aushadhi, you will get it for 10 rupees. So that is for generic medicines. That is not for rare diseases, the medicine that treat those rare diseases. That is not the same. So Jan Aushadhi Kendra is not for that. Let's move on then. There's a good news coming in. The Government of India has been focusing a lot on adult literacy as well. A lot of adults for various reasons may have dropped out of school. However, a lot of them now want to get basic literacy. Basic literacy means they can read, they can write, they should have numeracy skills. Many of them want to go to jobs, and that is why the Government of India has launched an initiative allowing these adults to come back to school and pass this examination. Now, the government of India has said that over 22 lakh adults have passed this exam last year. They are from 10 states and union territories, and they are officially now literates. Most of these are from the state of Madhya Pradesh. Now, what exactly is this? This is actually a government scheme. The government scheme is Saksharta Abhiyan. So basically, this Saksharta Abhiyan is a scheme under which the government of India is trying to get adults into education once again for basic education so that they have basic literacy. This is a very simple example. Let's assume that there's an illiterate person right now who has opened up his or her shop. Now, when you are running a shop, you might require certain basic maths, number one. You also require that at least if there is a packaging written in English, most of the products, for example, that you buy in the market, their packaging would be written in English. So they should be able to read at least that much. That is the basic idea. That to have even basic jobs, to run even basic business, they require certain literacy skills. That is how the government of India wants to train these people. This is the policy of the government called Nav Bharat Saksharta Abhiyan, or if you want to translate that into English, that is New India Literacy Program. Now, this is not a program where government has given any funding. This is a volunteer-based program. Volunteer-based program means if you, for example, want to teach in this program, you also can teach. You will not be given any money as such. So government has not given any money. It's a volunteer-based program as such. So it's volunteer-driven, as I told you. The government thinks that giving money to teachers, etc., will ruin the program. So let's have it volunteer-based, because only those who are really interested in doing this in teaching can come in. Secondly, till now, the government only did this program without any mobile app. Meaning that till now, local officials used to go door to door in the slum areas, asking people, would you like to learn? Would you like to go back to school or not? There was no way till now that a person could register on the app or on a website that I want to be in the program. Now the government will start a mobile app also, so that people who want to get into this program can now do that online. This is what the government is focusing on. The government knows that, see, till 14 years of age, we have the right to education. So till 14 years of age, mostly people remain in the school because they don't have to pay any money. They know that they can get admission into schools. The problem starts after 14. After 14 is when we have an issue, where the issue starts that at the end of the day, many people drop out. The houses also see their children as earning members. Many households want their boys or girls to start earning, going on jobs even when they are 15 years old. So after 14, there is a big dropout. And to ensure that that particular dropout is now removed, this is why the government of India has started this program. A few details about this program which you must remember. This is a program run by Ministry of Education. It's a centrally sponsored scheme. The aim is to ensure states, union territories, etc. promote literacy amongst a non-literate population as well. The target of the scheme is to cover 5 crore non-literates from 2022-23 to 26-27. So the target is we have to cover 5 crore literates. In the first year of operation, 22.7 crore have been covered already. So the target is to reach 5 crores in these 4 years. Components are that people will be taught foundational literacy, numeracy, critical life skills, vocational training also, basic education. This is what the Nav Bharat program or Nav Bharat literacy program will be, that we will be teaching all these things to the non-literates. Apart from that, the government will also take help of ASHA workers. If on a volunteer basis a school teacher wants to come and teach, they will also be allowed. They will not be getting any extra salary, but if they want, they can come and teach here. Schools will be the implementation scheme, meaning that these people will come to school. This is where they will be taught. So for example, the school ends at 2 p.m. or if the school ends at 3 p.m. After 3 p.m. the school is empty. So it is after the school hours that these people will be told to come to school, assemble in school, and this is where the teaching will happen. They will be given other reading materials as well, assessments, etc. will be done, and only then they will be given the certificate. So this is the Nav Bharat scheme. This will also indirectly lead to more employment generation, because people without basic literacy skills will have a hard time in finding even smaller jobs. So in fact, at least they can ensure that this much literacy will be helpful in getting some basic level jobs. Perfect. Let's move on then. The next important article that we have is ISRO has just released very, very beautiful images from EOS 06 satellite. EOS is Earth Observation Satellite. So ISRO has sent 6 Earth observation satellites, 01, 02, 03, etc. They have released images from the 06 satellite of the entire Earth. As you can see here, these are the images that have come up. Now, these images mainly are from the Earth observation satellite. These images are slightly different as compared to the usual images that you see. These are mosaic images. They tell us about the sea surface temperature, they tell us about the wind data, oceanography, etc. As the name suggests, Earth observation satellites are those satellites which are sent to observe different things of Earth. And I'll tell you what these satellites are all about. These are some of the images that you can see here. These have been released by ISRO on their Twitter page. You can go and see all of these. These are images of the Earth observation satellite. Now, Earth observation satellite, as you can imagine, this is for remote sensing of Earth, to understand what are the other different types of features of Earth, the physical features that we can actually see from the satellite. These include spy satellite also, so that they can keep an eye on other places, whichever places which are considered important by the government of India. These are non-military purposes for meteorology, cartography, for making adequate maps, etc. Also, they send a lot of satellite images, and they also help the government of India in ensuring that if there is, for example, any occupation on India border. So for example, we get a news that Chinese are coming into our border, Pakistan is coming into our border. How do we get to know that? We get to know that from the use of these kind of satellites. So that is why these Earth observation satellites are extremely important, to keep a track of your own area, to ensure that there is no one coming into your area, to also ensure that if there is anyone coming, you can take an action. So far, 6 of these have been launched. That is why it is called EOS 06. EOS stands for Earth Observation Satellites. There is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. All of these have similar kind of objectives. So their objectives are to look into disaster management support. So for example, if there's a flooding in an area, there are droughts in an area, so how to capture more data about that. They're also meant for agriculture, forestry, to keep an eye on forest, agriculture, to keep an eye on all these physical attributes that we require specifically for our Earth, for different purposes. There are 6 of them that have been sent so far. 6th one is the one that will look into ocean services as well, and ocean state forecast will be given to the government. There was a question asked about, I think 4 or 5 years back in the prelims examination. The question was, which of the following are the objectives of an remote sensing satellite? Let me repeat, the question a few years back that was asked was, which of the following are objectives of remote sensing satellite? Meaning that, what will the remote sensing satellite do? And the answer lies in all of these. These are the things that remote sensing satellites will do. Helping with forestry, plantation, giving us data about soil, moisture, hydrology, flood mapping. All these are examples of what the remote sensing satellites can do. That is why from these kind of news stories, when ISRO says we have released photos, for you it is not important to look at the photos. UPSC will not ask you draw a photo of what ISRO released. No. UPSC will ask you what the significance of these kind of satellites, what is it that these kind of satellites do actually. So please do remember, these are the kind of things that you have to read from this kind of news that appears in the Hindu newspaper. Another news from science. Scientists have now discovered that there is piezoelectric effect seen in liquids as well. Now, what exactly is the piezoelectric effect? Let's try and understand this. Basically, so far, piezoelectric effect was only seen in solids. For the first time, scientists had discovered this in liquid as well. I'll give you an example first. Let's look at this photo. See, this is the piezoelectric effect. So, if this is a material, if you actually push this material from both the sides, then by pushing it in, it will result in some electric current. This is called piezoelectric effect. This is the simplest definition. That if you have this material, you push it with force, then it will result in some electric current formed inside this material. This is the simplest definition of what is a piezoelectric effect. Like the lighter that you actually use to burn cigarettes, etc., all of that is an example of piezoelectric effect. The important thing here is, so far, piezoelectric effect was only seen in solids. But now, for the first time, scientists have discovered piezoelectric effect in liquid as well. This effect was first discovered 143 years back, but so far only observed in solids. But for the first time ever, it has been seen in liquids as well. This effect is usually seen in applications of wristwatches, clocks, cigarette lighters, TV remotes, electric guitars. This is where it is usually used, all for solids. But for the first time ever, it is now used, or it is now being seen in liquid as well. The reason why scientists are very surprised is this effect, the piezoelectric effect, is usually seen in those things which have a definite shape. Solids have a definite shape. That is why scientists always saw this effect in solids. Liquids don't have their own definite shape. Liquid can take whatever shape that you actually give it to them. You take liquid out of the bottle, you pour this in the glass, it will take the shape of the glass. From glass, you pour it in the plate, the liquid will take the shape of the plate. So liquids don't have one specific shape. So it was always thought piezoelectric effect will not be seen in liquids. But now it has been seen in liquids as well. This is why the scientists are now surprised at how is this happening. As per the scientists, there is no one single application what has been discovered. So it's not that it's a groundbreaking discovery that now that liquid also have this effect, we'll be able to do something else. For now, the only thing that you have to remember is what is the piezoelectric effect? What are the applications of piezoelectric effect? Please do remember this because that is important for your examination. Now, as I said, it is surprising in the liquids because it is usually not seen in how exactly a liquid which is not of a definite shape, how can it have a piezoelectric effect? The scientists do not really know how this actually happened. There's a question how to press the liquid in piezoelectric effect. That is what the scientists also are figuring out. So let scientists first find out the answer, then I'll tell you how did it happen. Then, as per the paper, this discovery is a new discovery that is being seen in the liquids, which was not the case earlier. Again, this is not something for which application has already been found out. We'll have to see if there are any applications for this kind of liquid in the future. This is the only discovery that has come in. Before I move on to the last news story for the day, let me take up a few questions very quickly. Okay. Yes, so there were questions about NAVIC and there were questions about EOS. NAVIC is very different. NAVIC is India's answer to the GPS, that is our navigation system. That is not EOS. EOS is Earth Observation Satellite. They don't basically give directions, etc. Earth observation satellites are mostly for observing the Earth, for topography, for all these physical effects, for all the climatic conditions that are changing, forest, agriculture. That is what EOS are for. Then I have a question, what is the importance of piezoelectric effect? As we said, the application of piezoelectric effect has been found in your cigarette lighters. That is how it generates electric current. That is how you see electric current being generated in a lot of other things, analog watches, etc., TV remotes, etc. Okay, Vladimir Putin is sending love from Russia in the chat, love from India also. Please end the war. Okay, then I have a question. Vincent, I saw your comment. Just because you're giving different smileys every time doesn't mean your question is changing. Scientists are figuring out how to, or why is it that the liquids have seen this kind of an effect. So let the scientists first find it out, let them share it in the Hindu newspaper, and then I will tell you how to do that. So I unfortunately don't have that much knowledge about this piezoelectric effect, at least so far. Okay, perfect. Let's move on then. Let's move on to another very interesting article that is about ancestry records. Now, it's a very interesting article, and some people amongst you, for example, who are not from Hindu religion, they might not know this. So, in the Hindu religion, more specifically, there is a practice that there is a group of people who are called as the pandas. So pandas basically are those group of people that have a responsibility of maintaining your ancestors' records. Let me tell you what this is. So basically, when you go to Haridwar, you will find that there are a lot of pandas. Pandas are basically priests. So pandas have a responsibility that from their generation to generation, they have been actually maintaining records of your ancestors. I'll give you an example. Let's say your grandfather, your grandfather's grandfather, his grandfather, let's say when they passed away, they would have gone to Haridwar for the last rites. They would have made an entry with some priest, with some panda, where their entire lineage would be written. So many people even today go to Haridwar and they find out some pandas which will tell about your generation. For example, you can find out what was your generation 6 generations above. For example, who was grandfather of my grandfather, I don't know. Who was grandfather's grandfather's grandfather, I don't know. So basically, if you want to know these kind of things, you usually go to pandas. They are usually, you will see them in holy places where people go for their last rites. People go for their last rites in Varanasi, people go for their last rites in Prayagraj, they go in Haridwar. So basically these are the places where you will find some pandas, and these pandas also are divided as per different types of areas. So for example, some pandas will have a responsibility that we keep a record of only this caste of people. So if you belong to a certain caste, you have to find out that panda, and then they will have this record of handwritten paper. They will tell your 15th generation was this, your 10th generation was this. So, and this is all real. For example, many people go and tell and ask what is their lineage, and they are told, oh, you are from the family of Prithviraj Chauhan, do you know this? Or you are from the family of this great Raja. So this is how basically many people go to actually have their ancestry being told to them. And this is a very old practice. In fact, they maintain a record of 15, 18, 20 generations also. So there's a long record that is kept with them, and it's a common practice. Now, what is the news all about? We are not going into how pandas actually work. We are not going into how that, or what is the authenticity of this entire system. What we are trying to understand is, what is the government doing? So government is saying that so far, all these records of ancestors, lineage, etc. are kept in a handwritten manner at these pandas and their families. What the government wants to do is, government wants to make an official record of this. How? There's a government organization called Indian Council for Historical Research. There's the Indian Council for Historical Research. They are now looking into ensuring that these records are now digitized. Government can also keep a record of lineage and ancestors, so that government can understand how the different lineage or families have passed on from generation to generation. This is what the government is doing. So for you, it is important to remember about the Indian Council for Historical Research. Don't remember about, or don't read more about how the pandas work or what is that system. What you have to remember is Indian Council for Historical Research. What they think is, as per the government, when they keep a record of many generations, it will be easier for them to understand about different types of diseases, about the migration record of the people who migrated from where, which are the different types of communities that exist in India. For example, when you go, I'll give you a very simple example. let's say when someone in your family passes away, you go for last rites, let's say Haridwar, etc. You make a record of it. So they'll ask you the cause of death. So for example, you wrote the cause of death was that some person dies of a certain disease. So when you get to know that someone in your 5th generation died of that disease, the government can get an idea, okay, this is a genetic disease that has a probability of being passed on. Do you understand? This is the importance of that. This is why the government is getting into that. That the government thinks if they can identify that, for example, some person died of certain disease, and if that disease has a possibility of passing on genetically, then you would know that that disease may come on in the next generation as well. This is what the Indian Council of Historical Research is doing. In Haridwar, for example, you can get history and lineage records of many important people, including Maharana Pratap, his ancestors, then ruler of Mewar, many people whose families have had a tradition of going to these places for last rites. Their records are maintained here. Now, this Indian Council for Historical Research, as I told you, the organization which is trying to look into this data, this is important for you. They work under Ministry of Education. They were established in 1972, and the aim is simple: to ensure that historical research is done scientifically. The historical research about the history of India, India's culture, etc. is maintained in this particular order. These are the objectives. They will undertake scientific study of India's history and culture. They will advise the government also how to train historians, how to maintain our history. They will sponsor research programs, give assistance, and take whatever measures required to maintain and safeguard the country's history. That is what the government is trying to do under ICHR. This brings us to the end of today's interesting session, because we had a lot of different types of news stories. Usually we don't discuss a lot of things from history, but today we had 2 topics from history. We had topics from science also, we had topics from other parts as well. So I hope all of you actually remember this. Don't forget, in fact, to attend the Telegram quiz also. That will happen right after this session ends. If you're not a part of our Telegram channel, there's a link given in the description of the video. Click on that, join the Telegram channel so that you can attend a quiz also based on these topics, so that you can revise whatever we have studied. These are the couple of practice questions for you. Please try and write these answers as well. I'll see you tomorrow 10 a.m. for the next session of the Hindu Newspaper Analysis. Have a good day ahead. Bye-bye. Jai Hind.